Hello there, welcome to Best of the Year. Originally in the earlier video I said I was going to split up into stacks of 3, but I'm going to just do a full list. It'll be easier, just simpler to watch, so I'm just going to do a simple list of the best of the year. There are films I haven't seen yet, like Detroit, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Last Jedi, that I'm looking forward to, but I haven't seen them, so I can't comment on them. There are other ones I really enjoyed, like Logan Lucky, that never quite made my best list. That Atomic Blonde's another one that didn't quite make my best list, but they were really good, solid films I never put in other videos. But these are the ones I thought were the best of the year. So I'll start off with The Silence. Originally, The Silence is a remake of, it's an adaptation of a book, but it's also a remake of a film called Silence. See, there's a "the" and "The Silence" and "Silence." So there's a difference. I prefer the original film, Silence, but The Silence is also a good film. It's about priests going to ancient Japan to find a priest who's gone missing. It's during the time when the Japanese were hunting down the Christians, and because they viewed them as the Christians as trying to take over the religion of their area, and they thought that was an offence to their original faith. So it's a persecution, religious persecution, but it's also, there's an element of, well, why are the Christians in the first place? There is something about what they're doing the Japanese have a right to react to, but the way they react is too much. So it's a complicated situation. Now the film's well acted, it's well directed. Like Andrew Garfield's good. I mean, he's the weepiest Spider-Man, but he's good in this film. He's toned it down quite a bit in this one. Adam Driver's terrific as the auxiliary of the priests who go over. A lot of the Japanese supporting cast are terrific. The thing it goes against it slightly is it's more of a mega production compared to the original film, which was a much more smaller. So when the violence hit in that film, it felt much more realistic. This film feels a bit more epic, so when the violence hit, it feels like a movie bit of violence rather than real violence. It doesn't feel like it really punched in the gut the same way as the original did. It also means that the end doesn't quite have the same punch because the production feels too big for the story they're telling. That's what kind of goes against it, but it's still a terrific film. I mean, I like the Scorsese films where he does the religious themes like Last Temptation of Christ, Kundun, and this one. I mean, they always tend to be a bit floaty dramatically. They always tend to not be his most focused films, but I quite like the atmosphere of them, and this one's the same with this atmosphere that's really interesting to watch. So it's definitely a recommended film. It's really well done. You know, it's weird because it is a very flawed film, but I still liked it more than some other films with probably less flaws, like stuff like Wonder Woman, which was a less flawed film in a lot of ways. It didn't have some obvious pacing issues and obvious production issues, but it sounds just feel like a better film, a more interesting, you know, story, and even its eccentricities had an element of, you know, depth to them that made it a more enriching film to watch. So that's why it made the list. There's something about it that I'll watch again. I'm really interested in watching. But I would definitely recommend watching both versions of this film because they're both terrific in their own way. I mean, it was one of those ones where when I heard he was remaking Silence, I was like, why are you remaking it? The original's perfect, you don't need to do it. But it was good, a good film though, so it was worth making. But you know, I had to be convinced because I really loved the original. Right, next is Free Fire, which is a Ben Wheatley film. It is basically about a bunch of criminals who are doing a gun deal in the 70s. Basically the Irish IRA trying to buy guns from these shady dealers. A petty argument gets out of hand and suddenly everyone's in this building shooting each other. It's just a funny little genre movie. I think it's like 90 minutes long. It feels very short, it feels very tight. I mean, the only film I can in recent years that reminds me of is Trespass by Walter Hill, which was made in the early 90s, which had a similar premise of people trapped in a building and no one's going to give in, so there's no way out of the situation. This one's more of a comedy version of that, where people the whole fight stems from a petty argument in a pub. It just gets out of hand, and all the tensions already there between different characters suddenly explode into violence, and no one will give in. No one can give in because the situation went from tense to life ending, and suddenly it's like, how do you get out of this situation? The only way to get out of the situation is to kill the other side, and everybody's plans never work because some of the characters are kind of stupid. It's just a really funny, really suspenseful film. It really works for what it is. It's just a dark comedy about human stupidity. I mean, it's probably not a film that made most people's list. It was one of those films that did well when it came out. It was well reviewed, but wasn't reviewed as a great film. But I think it's one of those ones that will be a keeper over the years because there's lots of little humane touches, lots of little details of character. It's got a really good cast: Armie Hammer, Brie Larson, Shatterstar Copley, the guy from the Neil Blomkamp movies. He's in it. There's lots of good supporting actors in it as well. I mean, it's like if you've seen Ben Wheatley films, quite a the actors in the support are from his earlier films. So it's a really terrific film. It's really underrated, and I think it's something that will come up in the years to come because Ben Wheatley's now bringing together a really good CV. I mean, A Field in England, High Rise, this one. There's lots of good films in his CV that means he's building a really good career for himself. Right, next up is Prevenge. Prevenge is Alison Lowe's film about a pregnant woman whose partner has died in a climbing accident. She goes mad. She feels she's been told by an unborn baby to kill the people responsible for the death of her partner. So you know it's all on her mind. It's nothing to do with the baby, but it's a really dark comedy about the need for revenge and the need to put your life in order in some way because otherwise you're going to spiral out of control. It's also about the craziness of pregnancy, especially as it comes to the end of the pregnancy as the baby's going to be born and she's wondering what kind of person she is. Does she have to be strong? Just what can she provide for her baby and what can she provide in this world and what kind of person she actually is she weak. So there's lots of stresses of pregnancy put into this revenge film. And it's nicely absurd and it takes the mickey out of the pretensions of a variety of professional people who in life. So you get like the sexist DJ, you get the professional woman, you get the climbing instructor who's maybe not as smart as he thinks he is. There's a bunch of interesting characters. It is a series of two hands between her and the victims. So it's like the most absurd slasher movie ever. But instead of having just mega deaths, you have funny dialogue then a funny death. So it's slightly reinvents the slasher movie to actually have dialogue in it and actually make it a good drama piece as well as having a funny death at the end of the sequence. So plus you always a lot of stuff about the sexism she faces in her daily life. And it's just terrific. I mean, it's really it's another film that's it's like Free Fire kind of came and went in the British cinemas. It just didn't it got good reviews, but then it was done. It was just gone after a couple of weeks, I think, and I don't think it was released many places. I mean, I caught it in Amazon later. It really is a terrific little film, though. It's like one of those ones. Again, it'll build up over the years because it's like 80 minutes long or something like that. It feels very short as well. It feels like it's just tight to what's needed at all times. And the cool thing is you're seeing everything through her point of view, so everything's biased. So it gets the craziness of one person's perspective on society in a way that resembles Taxi Driver and those kind of films where it's someone's warped view of the landscape that other kind of films that tend to last as people can actually find things in these films that are larger than life that also relate to their lives generally, even though they're not going around killing people. There's lots of things that are very relatable. So that's Prevenge is terrific. It's really worth seeing. It was one of those nice surprises for me over the year because you heard it was good, but you never expected it was as good as it was because it wasn't hyped up as to be it was hyped up to be a good little debut, but it was actually so much more than that. Next up is Blade Runner 2049. This one actually surprised me, it's on my list, because it's a film I was looking forward to, but not looking forward to at the same time during the pre-release, because it's one of those ones that I like the original, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I think it's getting lots of problems. I've done a video on it already, talking about what I thought the problems of it is, and it's one of those films, it's a cult film. Some people adore it. I think it's good. Like when it was released in the 80s, I was one of the people who said this is a lot better than you think because it wasn't well received. And now it gets become a thing where it's overrated. So the sequel was kind of it's this weird situation for me because I was looking forward to it but I wasn't. So so the film came out and I thought it was terrific. I mean, I like it more than the original. It's just got a better story really. The story engaged me more, the lead character engaged me more. It seemed to have the idea of having a protagonist who actually is a replicant, knows he's a replicant. So you're seeing the world through his eyes as he's trying to make sense of this environment that was built by other people that he's been programmed to fit into in a certain way, but he's not quite sure how he fits in and how it's all manipulating him. The whole situation and his need for something else manipulates him into doing these things. So it means in some ways kind of like both the Deckard and the Rutger Hauer character to get combined. Like he's searching for more like the Rutger Hauer character, but he's also a Blade Runner like the Harrison Ford character. So he's kind of combined into one character. I think that works really well because Ryan Gosling as lead really delivers on that kind of the kind of strangeness you need to be a replicant, but also he's human enough and his emotions you can relate to him. He's not too extreme, too weird. But there's lots of things he does that even though it's a robot doing them, it's tied into the emotions of what people are as well. So you can see replicants as people as well as replicants as something other, something beyond human. And that kind of thing works, and as the story progresses, as he's trying to wonder, does his life mean more than it does, or is he more special than he thinks he is? There's lots of things like that go through the movie as he tries to hunt down, try to work out a mystery of this person who was born from a replicant, and he's trying to work out basically who it was and why it happened and who's trying to cover it up and why it's important. The good thing with the film is it sets up these mysteries. It doesn't come out and say this is important because this. It implies things. You have to work out for yourself why it's important, why it has scenes that tell you it indirectly. So that's why it takes 2.5 hours to get through, because it's implying things rather than stating them outright. I mean, it actually is more successful than the original, because the original seemed to, a lot of the time, seemed to hit over the head with certain things. And I think this one was very good at not doing that to you. And also, I mean, Harrison Ford's back at Deckard, and he's really terrific. I mean, he really plays it as a guy who's lost a lot, and he's really committed to the idea of this character 30, 40 years later who's had to do things to protect his child, and who's had to really suffer and become isolated just to do the right thing. And the whole idea of is that the replicant situation is more complicated than just being better than human. They're different from humans, but they're tied to humans, and it's complicated. And what does it mean? What does their dreams mean? What does their emotions mean? How that affects it? What's real? What's not real in your emotions? All that thing comes into play, and it's really terrific. I mean, you go into a lot more in a longer video, but it's a really terrific film. It just has lots of subtext in it that really work. Again, I think it's a case of, it was like the first film was based on a novel, and they didn't quite understand some of the novel, I don't think. This one, they seem to have got an idea of what the story's about, and have hired someone who really gets the story and can do it in a way that's not as not as obvious. So things are implied, and you have to work about it for yourself. And that's the kind of film I like more than being told whatever it means. So it's terrific. It's really worth seeing. Okay, next is my favourite pure action film. The film that's just utter action from start to finish. It's all about the action of John Wick 2. I mean, John Wick 1 was terrific. It's really like a simple revenge story. This one's much more like he's pulled back into the world. John Wick's pulled back into the world he was trying to keep out of because he owes a debt, and then he's betrayed and paying back that debt, and he goes for revenge against everybody who screwed him over. It's very simple. I mean, the cool thing with this film is there's action for a good 60% of it, and it's terrific action. It's like the kind of film you watch just for the action because it's beautifully done. It puts everyone else to shame because everything's realistic action. They did it on the set, obviously. The actors are getting pounded. John Wick looks like hell by the end of the film. He is beaten to hell. So Keanu Reeves really commits to the idea of the action. But also the fact is, they have enough scenes early on and throughout the movie that remind you it's a person and it connects you to John Wick and to his world. So it sets up the world further than the first film. But it still remembers it's a story, it's not just action scenes. So the story propels the action scenes and you're always committed to watching the story. The story's always driving what comes next. And that's a springboard for the action, but it's also, there's enough depth to it in this world for you to actually feel like it's worthwhile to watch for the story as well. So I mean, I think it's weird enough because it was released early in the year. I think in some way it's been forgotten slightly compared to something like Logan, which was so overpraised that it was insane. And this film was much more basic, but actually, for me, delivered a lot more because it just knew what it was. It was just a slimmed down action movie with depth. It's a way in the 70s you'd Walter Hill films like The Driver where, yeah, there was lots of action, a lot of setup and suspense, but there's also character moments. You see characters in their action and they're getting defined by what they do throughout the story. And this film goes back to that idea and it keeps defining everybody through how they interact with other people, whether they're kind, whether they're not kind, and whether they're brutal. And it just keeps on evolving. So by the end of the film, the world's completely different from where it was at the beginning. And everyone's situation is completely different. And the characters are more defined by this point. And it just works. And what really works is Keanu Reeves just commits completely to this part. And he just really commits to the acting and the action. So he's always all in. Plus he knows to slimline everything. Just pare it down to its essence. And that's what it really needs. And that's what the film gets. So it's like 2 hours long, but it doesn't feel over long. I mean, a film this should ideally be 90 minutes, but this one's 2 hours. But it's still, you don't feel like it's too long. Because it's got a lot to do, so it has to take a bit more time than normal, but it just delivers. It's just a beautiful action movie. But next are the 2 Marvel films I really liked this year, which was Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, Spider-Man was released as well. Spider-Man was good fun. But it was one of those ones I enjoyed it, but I've seen other Spider-Man films that were better. Like the first 2 Sam Raimi ones, and it's like, yeah. I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think that much about it afterwards. Guardians and Thor were much more interesting, much more eccentric. They're building upon stuff they'd already set up. So Guardians 2 was literally a continuation of the first film, set 3 months later. And all the character flaws that it had in the first film are exploited much more in this one to show where these characters are lacking. So you have Rocket being an idiot, I mean, just being selfish. You have Peter Quill character with daddy issues becomes the thing that almost destroys everybody. And all the other characters, Gamora and her sister, how they interact. And the whole thing just works because it's a family drama with a pulp sci-fi background. The family drama works. It's a bit overstated at times, but it's always genuine, so you always feel like the interactions, both smart ass, feel real at the core. Like everyone's different characters, no one's a different version of someone else in the film. Everyone's very uniquely their own thing and have their own flaws. So how they interact always really brings it back to earth. And yet, all the sci-fi stuff's always like, almost feels like it's an extension of what's going on in the characters' heads. So it always feels like it's almost expressionistic of what's going on with the character. So it just really works. I mean, the storytelling itself is a bit clunky, but the things that work in the film are so good that it makes up for it. So I mean, the story could have lost half an hour. Like in storytelling, you could have lost half an hour of this film and just stuck to the basics and you'd have been fine. But the things they added that probably slowed the film down are the things that make the film really deliver. At the end would not work, it wouldn't be so emotional if it wasn't for all the things, all the different like sideways moves the film made that may have slowed it down a little. But those are the things you needed to actually make it work, and so you could, because all the characters split up throughout the film, they'll never come back at the end together. But that's what it really needs. So it's a beautiful little pulp family movie. It's wonderful, but it's one of those films like Batman Returns or something like that where, yeah, it's eccentric. It's not for everybody, but it's still a beautiful film and it's really different from the rest. I mean, they do have the big action scene at the end that the Marvel films always do, but it's a personal fight rather than a blow up the world or something. It's much more of a fist fight between father and son. So it's just a beautiful film. Thor Ragnarok is much more breezy. It's basically taking the piss out of Thor, taking the piss out of comic books, but it's also genuine at the same time. It's like, it's aware of how weird some of these characters are. It takes the Thor mythos and allows characters to be funny and flawed. And again, it is like Guardians in a sense. It allows the film to go about half an hour beyond what it should in running time just to get those moments in the film. Like there's lots of side plots like the rock monster and some of the stuff with the characters in the middle section you don't really need to make the story work, but that's kind of what makes the story work. Like the story is actually fairly straightforward. It's like Hela invades Asgard, Thor and Loki are thrown out and are stuck in this gladiator planet. They have to survive, get a team together and go back and kick Hela. That's the film. That's basically the plot. It's a 5-minute plot. But the way it's done, all the interactions are all wonderful. They meet up with Hulk, and Hulk's now a gladiator king in the arena, so he wants to stay and just feeling great about himself. And Thor has to manipulate him to try and get him to be on his side. Loki's been untrustworthy again, and the interaction between him and Thor is trying to get Loki on his side to come and do this, which he ends up doing, but Loki has to do it in his own terms, which is quite funny because it's like there's a whole fight scene and a couple of interactions that are kind of Thor's way of getting Loki around. Like he has to let Loki think he's betrayed, let Loki think that Thor thinks that Loki's betrayed him again, so that Loki himself will go and do the right thing. And it's just like that twisted brother thing that they're not going to do it outright. They're going to say something, I'm going to do this. They have to do it their own way, and it becomes a funny little side thing that only happens within families. It's like it's a weird logic you have to deal with in families to try and get somebody to do something, and it's just all weirdly twisted. The whole film is like that, an interaction between Thor and Valkyrie. She's this drunk god or goddess who just needs to be brought back to to her home basically, and trying to get her on board is also difficult for him. It just becomes this thing of he's got all these challenges, but instead of them being challenges of his might, it's actually challenges of him trying to talk people into doing things that they don't want to do. And that's what's funny about it. It's always it's this big pulp adventure, but it's about all these conversations between Thor and someone else, and Thor's getting it half wrong half the time as well. And he's had to blatantly lie sometimes, and it's hilarious, all that stuff that goes on. So it's a really fun film. It's very enjoyable. I can't wait to see it again. I'm really looking forward to seeing it again. But it's one of those when you have to experience, there's just this weird experiential thing that I know a lot of people get with this film. It's like it did so much better than I expected, because it was the third in the Thor series, and the Thor series had kind of fallen away. It was a one series in the MCU that hadn't really excelled compared to some of the other films, but this was this was its Winter Soldier basically. It was the one film where suddenly the series just jumped up a level. So it's wonderful. Next up is Dunkirk. Dunkirk's a Christopher Nolan film based on the Dunkirk situation in World War II, which was well known in Europe, was never well known in America, where a bunch of British soldiers were going into World War II, into Europe doing a big push. The Germans pushed back, beat the hell out of them, and now they were stuck on in Dunkirk waiting to get ships to come and take them home. And it was difficult to get ships there because ships were coming over and getting blown up. The Germans were coming in to basically massacre them. They were getting leaflets dropped on them saying surrender or die. And it's about that week basically, while they're trying to organise in the UK. This is when Churchill was about to come into power, or was just negotiating to come into power while they were stuck in Dunkirk. So it was a turning point in World War II. Essentially this is where the British get their arse kicked, and that motivated them to get back into the war and to beat Germany. So the film's got 3 timelines. One takes place over a week as you're with the soldiers trying to get away and trying to get onto a boat, and when all these things happen, then you've got one thing takes place over a day, which is about these people and these civilians and ships that were coming over. They were just like fishing boats, and they were coming over to pick up some of the soldiers. And then finally you had one set in an hour, which is Tom Hardy as a flyer trying to give cover to the soldiers as they were, you know, getting on the boats and fight against the Germans' planes. So basically you've got those 3 things happening, and it's not just very visual. The whole idea is slowly but surely you see these 3 timelines converge, so that by the end of the movie they're all happening at the same time, but for a while you don't know they're happening over different timelines. But yeah, it's very silent. I mean, there's barely any dialogue. Every so often there's a dialogue scene, but most of the time it's not. It's just silence, which is good because Christopher Nolan sometimes has a problem with dialogue scenes. Sometimes he states the obvious, and it's people stating subtext, which is a problem. I bet it was a massive problem. The worst time it was in the Batman films, because it seemed like they were always stating things that should have been implied. Some of these other films weren't as bad, but Batman films, they really had a problem with that. This one, because there's very little dialogue, it's all visual, it's all about the watching people trying to survive, and the dialogue you get a lot of the time, which is from very normal characters. There's a bit of speechifying, but there's not that much. Just towards the end there's more, and that's where the film kind of wavers a little bit, because it's like you don't really need that. You got the point just by the actions, but I think they needed to put some of this stuff in the end of the Churchill speech. We will never surrender, just to make it the point to people who didn't know about the situation. Like everyone in Europe, you knew what it meant, but I think in America you might not have. So, of course I could be wrong, maybe the Americans understood just with the visuals as well what it meant, but I get the reasons why some of this stuff, the speechifying near the end happened, just to make sure people understood. But it's still a wonderful film, and there's terrific sequences throughout. The plane stuff's great. They going from one boat to the other and having that boat sink, then they're getting stuck back in the beach where this first started, and they're trying back and forth to try and get off the beach. It's terrific. Everything in the movie is terrific. I mean, the whole film is just wonderful, and it's really well worth seeing. It's a beautiful film. It's flawed, but it's beautiful. You know. Next up is Baby Driver. Baby Driver is the Edgar Wright car chase musical, is the best way to put it. I mean, no one's singing and dancing, but the music, the lead character's got tinnitus or tinnitus, and he's always playing music in his earphones to get rid of that sound. And he's a getaway driver for these bank robberies, and everyone plays to music, so he timed himself to music, sort of like in Hudson Hawk where they time the robberies. Yeah, so it's one film that actually steals stuff from Hudson Hawk. Only Edgar Wright would do that. But it's a terrific film. It's all about even though it's a lot of it's about the form, there's still enough depth to it. Even though it's a very simple story, you've kind of seen it before. A guy's trying to get out of crime, he gets drawn back in, and there's a lot of machinations to actually get out of crime, and how difficult it actually becomes because he thinks he can walk away as soon as. The first half of the movie, he's in debt to a gangster. Once he's paid the debt off, he thinks he can walk away. Turns out he can't. He has to try and find a way to get out of that life. And yeah, you've seen it all before, but the way it's done with the music, the fact he's in his head a lot and he's not noticing things he should notice. It's just beautifully done. It kind of is like John Wick, where it's in its own world. It's not set in the real world. It's its own rules. And you have to just go with it. It's a fantasy world, and the characters are a bit stock. They're not realistic, but they're their own little quirks that make them feel like real people in this world, even though it's not a real world. But it's a beautiful stylistic movie with enough depth to get you to really make you care about what's going on. So yeah, it's a wonderful film. It's hard to say much about this film because it's sort of like Guardians of Thought. It's about the experience more than talking about it or trying to analyse whatever it means, because it's the way it's put together. I think a lot of the really good films this year is the way it's expressed by the visual language and by how they use cinema to make it work. And a lot of the weaker films try and use dialogue for that, and the better films use expression sequences where they express the characters' desires through like watch them walk down the street, listen to music. It tells you a lot more than a big dialogue sequence could. And that's what I find I love a lot in these films that are my favourites of the year. Next is something that feels kinda like Baby Driver. It's Good Time, which the Safdie brothers made, and stars Robert Pattinson as this guy who's does a bank robbery at the beginning that goes wrong. His brother, who's mentally handicapped, is in jail, then he gets put to a hospital after he gets in a fighting jail. And Robert Pattinson has to get him out of that hospital before he can talk, which will implicate him in the robbery. But it's really about these bad decisions that start with the robbery and just go on and on and on. The lead character makes so many bad decisions, but it's interesting watching his world slowly fall apart, all by his own doing. I mean, everything would have worked if he was smart, but he's not smart. He just thinks he's smart and he just goes completely haywire, and just everything spins out of control, and he causes trouble for everybody he interacts with. And there's violence and there's horrible things happening throughout the film, but it's just so much fun. It's just watching this spin out of control throughout 90 minutes. And all the actors are terrific. Jennifer Jason Leigh's in it. All the supporting characters are maybe people you've never heard of, but because of that you don't know what they're capable of, and it really creates this tension for the film. But it's also fun. It's enjoyable to hang out with these people, just watching them interact, because they're all fun characters. Even the lead character, Pattinson plays, is a fun character to watch. He's just makes so many bad decisions, but it's so much fun to watch him go down these roads that you should never go down. So it's such an enjoyable film. Again, it's what I said about Baby Driver. It's the experience of watching it. It's not about what the subtext here. It's just about the experience of the filmmaking that really works in this thing. It's beyond the basic plot. The plot's, you've seen it all before. You know, it's a crime movie. You've seen what crime movies are. It's just the way it's done, and how the plot is actually an extension of the character, and the character's an extension of his environment. But he's sort of the worst part of his environment. He doesn't know it. So it's a comedy as well, because it's called Good Times and it's about bad times, but he's still having a good time, and his environment allows him to actually freewheel because there's no one watching, because it's a poor environment, so no one cares. And he just is spinning further and further out of control. And it's a wonderful film. It's just beautifully made. So I want to see both of these directors, and I'll have to try and look out their earlier films, but this is a beautiful film. Right, next up is Elle, Paul Verhoeven's Elle. This is It was released last year in America, I think, but it didn't come out over here till this year. And it's a hilarious film of a subject matter that should not be hilarious. Basically, a woman gets Isabelle Huppert gets raped. She's in her 50s, but she doesn't report it. Instead, she actually tries to work out who the person who's raping her is, who raped her was, and wants to deal with her own way. And she deals with, it's about how she deals with people, because she doesn't deal with people in a way that a normal film would, because it's about a character rather than a type, and it's about how people react to life in their own way. It doesn't make sense. She's always got a father who was a psychopath, so that past haunts her. And she's sleeping with her best friend's husband, so that's a problem. But it's about just how she reacts. The whole film, all the plot comes to how she reacts to her son, who's a screw up, who used to have a drug problem. Now again, that sounds cliche, but the way she reacts, the way he reacts, is not cliched. It's just people reacting. It's like individuals reacting to a problem that's common. And the whole film is about that, and it's also about the person turns out to be a rapist is her neighbour, and he's just weird as well, and she gets something out of it, but it's not obvious what she's getting out of it. And it's just these weird characters. It's the kind of thing that you used to see in the 60s, where people would react uniquely. They would just react the way some people would react, but not everybody. So it caused controversy because some people thought it was, I don't know, it was tasteless because it didn't have someone reacting the way that's prescribed they should react, because that's the way everyone reacts. But that's not the way people react. People react their own way to any situation. They just react as people, and that's what the film shows. I'm sure that's what comes out in most of these my best of the years. Individual characters reacting to a genre situation that could be cliched, but how the filmmakers do it just is unique. And this film really feels unique and fresh. Trying to explain it all is difficult because it's not very plot heavy. It's just scenes between people. And Isabelle Huppert is brilliant in it as well. She's just so funny and so cutting, and there's no self-pity no matter what she does or what happens to her. She's very matter of fact, but there's lots of stuff going behind her eyes, and you try to work out how she sees things. So it's a film to see, to experience, rather than trying to analyse in lots of ways. You have to experience it, and then there's it's just like seeing a person who's just uniquely themselves, not what's prescribed as what they should be. So Elle's terrific. Okay, about two more. Wind River. This is basically it's set in an Indian reservation. A young woman is found dead in the snow in the middle of winter, and basically the FBI send a female agent who's inexperienced out because they don't care. They just send someone who's a minor agent for them out because they don't care about the Indians. She has the help of the guy who found her, who was a tracker played by Jeremy Renner, and his daughter had died the year before, so he's still processing that, and it's about them trying to work out who killed her. Now that sounds very formulaic. It sounds like it's a typical who did it, but it's not a film about who did it. It's a film about why it happened and how it affects people. So the who did it doesn't matter so much. I mean, you find out who it was, that's dealt with, but it's like, why did it happen? Why do the society not care about the Indians? Why have they been forced into this place where most people can't live? How a lot of them become self-destructive because there's no hope for the future. Really, there's just very little hope for them, so it's a lot more self-destructive, and they can't communicate with each other because they're put in a bad situation. But the good thing is, it's not about, none of the characters are whiny or anything. They just get on with their lives. And some of the characters like Jeremy Renner, he married an Indian, he's very sympathetic. He's got a son and daughter, the daughter who died, who are half Indian. So he's part of that world. Even though he's not the world, he's part of it as well. And his head, he's part of it. And it's always about how he deals with the grief of his daughter's death, and he still hasn't really processed it. He's still in that level where he's still trying to work it out in his head. And that's what's coming through. He still can't quite work out how to process these feelings. So it becomes this drama. And the FBI agent, played by Elizabeth Olsen's, trying to work out what's going on. But she's also working out the society she's suddenly found herself in. And that's more important than the actual crime, because the crime is solved. And it's a horrible reason why it happened. And again, it's all about why people just discard the Indians. But the crime's about how they discard the Indians rather than something specific. There's no like evil serial killer or anything. It's about a real life crime and the implications of it. Because you barely see the person who's killed. You see in like one scene, really. It's enough to realise this is a person who didn't deserve what happened to them. The way this happens in daily life, people die for horrible reasons and they don't deserve it, and it's just all about some other person who's psychopathic or who made a mistake. So there's a realism to it, but there's also a kind of western quality, as Jeremy Renner has a cowboy hat and things, and he deals with the crime in a kind of brutal way at the end of it. But that's very interesting. It's all about his character, how he's working it out, how his friends are working it out, because he's friends with the person whose daughter was a victim. He's very close to them. So now they have to deal with that as well. So it's a beautifully made film. The performances are amazing. Everybody in it is brilliant. The whole cast is brilliant. It was one of those films that came out and no one expected much from it, but it just kept on building. So it did well in America. I think it's done well pretty much anywhere it's played, even though it's not a big release. So it's a film as a grower rather than something that just disappeared. It's really worth everyone's time to see, because it's a brilliantly made film. That it's a very traditionally made film. It tries to stay to the basic conventions of storytelling and then try and convert them to what it's really concerned about. But it's aware of where the traditional elements could hinder the film, so it's careful to kind of dodge them. So even though it's got a white protagonist, he's only white. He's white by genetics, but in his head he's one of them. And it's kind of interesting to see how people evolve within their society. So he's really part of that society now, even though in some ways he's not, but in his head and everyone else's head he's kind of part of that society. So it's quite interesting how it's uniquely different. It's about how people survive in a grim situation. So it's a beautiful film. It really surprised me how much it knocked me out when I saw it. It was really beautiful. Okay, the final film is Song to Song. This is Terrence Malick's film. He's another one coming out, but this is the last. I think he's going back to do more scripted things after this one, because he said he wanted to try something different. So this is more of an improvised film. And it's beautiful and it's been hated. It's really did not do well critically. His last few haven't, and which is funny because I've loved his last few. To the Wonder, Night of Cups, and this one. All of them were slated with critics because he was trying something that was a bit far out for them. But to me, these are like his version of the films that Bresson was making in the late 60s and 70s that weren't really well received. A lot of the time they were like, well, the master is going off in his own way and he's not as good anymore. And Malick's in that period now where he's making films that aren't Badlands, aren't these other films that people want him to make. He's making the films he wants to make. And they're not obviously dramatic, but they're beautiful. They're really wonderful because they're about this couple who are both musicians and they're trying to make a life for each other. They make mistakes, split up and eventually get back together. That's the story. But you also get the Michael Fassbender, who's the music producer who gets in between them and who causes problems for them. But he's got his own problems, his own wife. And there's the people who they meet up with and who they date in between dating each other and their families and all that. So there's a kind of narrative there. It's just slowly it evolves its own way. It doesn't point out like this is what the story is. It's like this is the experience of them falling in love. This is the experience of them falling out of love. This is the experience of them splitting up. And it's not like they have plot points saying this is how you should feel here. It's like you see it from their experience. how they're evolving throughout the film. And it's, so the film feels like it's, I wasn't exhausted by the time I got through it all because it's such a intense film, but it's very much of what they're feeling every time, so everything's pumped up to what they're experiencing at every moment, so you're not getting those kind of quiet spots of not much intensity. Everything feels very intense throughout, and then the next sequence feels very intense in a different way, and the next film series scenes feel intense. So the film is the intensity of being in love, falling out of love, then falling back in love with that person and realising the mistakes you made. And it's beautiful, but it's hated. It's like, what can you do? I don't think people, they're in that period where Malik feels like someone from the past, and I don't think people have the patience for it at the moment. I think in the future, hopefully, they'll get what these films actually are and not what they expected them to be. Because people want them to make certain films like basically Badlands or Days of Heaven again. And he's not doing that. He's not even doing the films he came back with, like The New World or The Thin Red Line. It's something else. But it wants the old Malik, and he's doing his own thing. Now he's moving back to something else. So we'll see what happens. But these are beautiful films about experience. I mean, To the Wonder was about a love between two depressed people and trying to find something. This one's about love between two people who are a bit damaged, but they're a lot younger. There's a bit more to learn. And Nick Cups is a bit damaged person who was trying to survive his own family. So they're three simple stories, but done in a certain way that's very, you know, it comes from the characters rather than trying to put a plot on these people. And it's done with lots of voiceover. It's what people think in their heads rather than what they see, rather than talking to each other all the time. Because if you're in your head a lot, it's a very different experience from simple conversations, and that's what Malik's going for. But in how that affects a person, and he's cut himself off from other modes of drama that people are used to. So it relates a lot of people. I think it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful how he does it. And not everything has to be the same. This is something different. It's not for everybody. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I thought it was wonderful, so I'm obviously the audience for it. Right, so those are my favourite films of the year. Everyone else have different films. I'm pretty sure quite a few of mine aren't in many lists, which is fine. I don't care. The two best things I saw weren't actually films on TV. I mean, one was the Vietnam War, the Ken Burns documentary. I'm going to do a video on that later, probably after the new year. I'm still thinking about it. And Twin Peaks was already done a video on. Those were amazing experiences to watch over a long time, basically. And they were just like two directors just delivering full on for what they can do. Like Ken Burns just whole view of the 60s and the early 70s of how this war affected people, and even beforehand and what happened to Vietnam itself. And David Lynch delivered this weird mood piece over 18 hours, 18-hour film basically. So those were the epics that I adored more than any film. But song by song, song to song came very close though. And a few of the other films, I mean, anything in this list of films I'm going to watch quite a lot over the years. So they're all, and even the list of the films that didn't quite make it, I really loved those films too. So I had quite a good year for films, plus all the other ones I watched from the past too. So there's a lot of good films out this year. Again, there's some films that I now haven't seen. Another one I've just thought of is Lost City of Z. I haven't seen that one yet. I'm looking forward to that one. Just haven't seen it yet. I've got it but I haven't watched it. I'm not sure I mentioned Logan Lucky was really good as well. So there's a lot of films, even films you think of as you're doing this list, it's like, I never thought of that one. There's tons of good stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back after the new year with some more Beautiful Disaster. I'm going to start that series up again. I've got a list of films I want to cover, so I'll be doing them with all the background stuff as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you soon.